Liam Dalton, a wealthy and powerful businessman, believed he had control over every aspect of his life. But as he stood in the spotlight of his grand mansion, fate had a different plan, one that would challenge his very core beliefs. His friend Ethan Harrington issued a bet that struck at Liam's pride. The wager wasn't just about money, it was a challenge to his belief system. Ethan dared him to marry a woman far removed from his world of wealth and power. If Liam failed, it wouldn't just cost him millions, but also his carefully guarded reputation. If he succeeded, he'd prove his point. If he failed, it would cost him dearly, both in pride and reputation. The perfect candidate for this cruel wager was Nora Reid, a humble maid working quietly in the shadows of the mansion. With no other options to escape her dire financial situation, Nora reluctantly agreed to the proposition. But neither Liam nor Nora knew that this gamble would lead to something far deeper and more life-changing than either of them could have anticipated. The night was alive with music and laughter at Liam Dalton's grand mansion. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above as conversations flowed between the wealthy guests. Liam, with his usual air of authority, stood in the center of a circle of admirers. However, his composure was about to be tested. "Liam," Ethan Harrington called out, approaching with a sly grin and a glass of wine in hand. "You always say money can buy and change anything, but I wonder, could it change a person, a life? Could you marry someone outside your world and still make it work?" Liam raised an eyebrow, his voice calm yet dismissive. "Ethan, must you always come up with these absurd ideas at my parties?" But Ethan wasn't backing down. "I'm serious. I'll bet $5 million you can't do it. You have to marry someone completely outside our social circle and convince everyone it's real for 3 months." The room fell silent as guests leaned in, intrigued by the challenge. Liam hesitated but knew his pride was at stake. "Fine," he finally said, raising his glass. 3 months. Let's see who wins." The next morning, Liam set his plan into motion. His gaze fell on Nora Reid, the maid, silently cleaning in the corner of the kitchen. She was humble and unassuming, exactly the opposite of what anyone expected him to marry. "Nora," Liam said, stepping closer, his voice steady but authoritative. Nora looked up, startled. "Mr. Dalton? Is something wrong?" "No," Liam replied. "I have a proposal for you." He pulled out a check and placed it on the counter. "I want you to marry me for 3 months. It's purely business. In return, I'll pay you enough to change your life." Nora stared at the check, her heart racing. This isn't funny," she said nervously. "I'm not joking," Liam said firmly. "You're struggling, right? This money can give you a fresh start. No strings attached after 3 months." Nora hesitated. Memories of her family's hardships and mounting debts flooded her mind. Could she really sell a part of herself for this arrangement? Finally, with a deep breath, she nodded. "I accept." Liam gave a satisfied smile. "Good. Tomorrow, you'll be my wife." The marriage was official. Nora Reid, now Mrs. Dalton, stood silently beside Liam as they returned to the mansion after the quick civil ceremony. The atmosphere between them was tense. Though she wore a modest white dress, Nora felt out of place amidst the grandeur. Liam, on the other hand, maintained his composed and distant demeanor. The next day, the reality of her new life set in. Liam wasted no time reminding her of the expectations that came with their arrangement. "You'll be attending events with me, and appearances are everything in my world," he explained curtly. "You'll need to dress the part and learn proper etiquette." Nora raised an eyebrow, folding her arms. "You mean I have to pretend to be someone I'm not just to impress your friends?" Liam narrowed his eyes. "It's not about pretending. It's about maintaining control and image. You agreed to this, remember?" With no choice but to comply, Nora reluctantly began lessons with a strict etiquette coach named Eleanor. The sessions tested her patience. Holding wine glasses correctly, walking with perfect posture, and using the proper utensils, none of it came naturally to her. But Nora was no pushover. She made subtle mistakes on purpose, just to annoy Liam. "Are you satisfied now?" she asked one evening after flawlessly placing her fork and knife on her plate. Liam smirked slightly. "You're improving." "Well, I'm a quick learner, Nora replied sarcastically. At social events, Nora was subjected to scrutiny. Wealthy guests whispered and stared, questioning how someone so ordinary had become Mrs. Dalton. Vanessa Belmont, an elegant woman with a history of interest in Liam, approached her during a charity gala. "So, you're Liam's wife," Vanessa said with a condescending smile. "It must take a lot of courage to step into this world." Nora returned a sweet yet sharp smile. "Thank you. I imagine it's just as difficult for those who have to try so hard to fit in." Vanessa recoiled, clearly caught off guard. Liam, observing from a distance, couldn't help but feel a hint of admiration for Nora's resilience. As time passed, Liam found himself drawn to her strength. Despite the challenges, Nora remained grounded and compassionate. One night, while she was tending to the garden, Liam approached her unexpectedly. "You don't give up, do you?" he asked softly. Nora glanced at him, wiping dirt from her hands. "Why should I? Life doesn't exactly hand you favors." Something about her response stirred a feeling Liam hadn't experienced before. He began spending more time around her, asking questions about her past and learning of the struggles she had endured. Slowly, the walls between them started to crumble. Neither of them realized it yet, but the seeds of something deeper had begun to grow. For a while, everything seemed to settle into a rhythm. Nora accompanied Liam to events where she managed to handle the judgmental stares and whispers with grace. Though she and Liam often exchanged playful sarcasm, there was an undeniable connection forming between them. Slowly, Nora began to believe there might be more to their arrangement than just a business deal. But the illusion shattered one evening during a high-profile gala. Ethan Harrington, never one to miss an opportunity for mischief, approached the couple with a smug grin. "So, Nora," Ethan began casually, "how's life as Mrs. Dalton? I imagine it's quite an adjustment marrying into a world like this." Nora smiled politely. "It has its challenges, but I manage." Ethan chuckled darkly. "I bet it does, especially when your marriage started as a game." The words sent a shockwave through Nora. Her smile vanished as she turned to face him fully. "What did you just say? You didn't know?" Ethan sneered. "Liam made a bet with me. He had to marry someone outside his circle and keep it up for 3 months. You were part of the wager, Nora." Nora's heart dropped. She turned to Liam, her eyes wide with betrayal. "Is that true, Liam?" "Nora, I can explain," Liam said, his voice strained. "Explain?" Nora's voice trembled with hurt and anger. "You used me for a bet?" "It's not what you think. At first." "Huh? Yes, but things changed. You have to believe me," Liam pleaded. Nora shook her head, stepping back. "Believe you? You lied to me about everything. You made me feel like I mattered, and it was all just part of some twisted game." Ethan watched with satisfaction as the scene unfolded. "I'd say my work here is done," he said smugly before walking away. Nora's face hardened. "I can't do this, Liam. I can't stay here knowing what you did." "Nora, wait, please." But Nora was already walking away, her steps quick and determined. That night, she packed her belongings and left the mansion, refusing any assistance from Liam. She didn't know exactly where she was going, only that she needed to get away. Meanwhile, Liam stood alone in the vast, empty hall of his home, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. He had never lost control before, but for the first time, he felt a crushing emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. Weeks passed in painful silence for both Liam and Nora. Nora rented a modest room in a small boarding house on the outskirts of the city. She found a job at a local cafe and threw herself into work, hoping it would distract her from the pain of betrayal. But at night, memories of her time with Liam haunted her. Moments of vulnerability, unexpected kindness, and the deep connection they had shared. She wondered if any of it had ever been real. Meanwhile, Liam was trapped in his own torment. The mansion felt cold and empty without Nora's presence. Guilt consumed him as he reflected on how his arrogance and pride had destroyed something precious. Determined to change, he redirected his energy toward meaningful pursuits. Remembering Nora's values, he began supporting social projects, visiting underprivileged communities, and donating his time and resources. One day, Nora ran into Clara, a former stylist who had worked with her at the mansion. "Maria, what a surprise," Clara said warmly. "Clara, hi," Nora replied with a polite smile. "What brings you here?" "I'm helping with a social initiative," Clara explained. "Liam's been really involved in the project. You wouldn't believe how much he's changed." Nora froze for a moment, processing the unexpected information. Liam? Volunteering in the community? Later that night, Nora lay awake, Clara's words echoing in her mind. Was it possible that Liam had genuinely changed? She knew she couldn't avoid the truth forever. The next morning, after much internal debate, Nora decided to visit the mansion. As she walked through the gates, she saw Liam in the garden surrounded by children from a local charity. He was laughing and speaking with a warmth she had never seen before. When he noticed her, he froze in surprise, but quickly walked over. "Nora," he said softly, his eyes filled with both hope and nervousness. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I needed to see for myself," she replied, glancing around. "Clara told me about the projects you've been working on." Liam nodded, his hands stuffed into his pockets. "You inspired me. I realized how empty my life was. I had all the power and wealth I could ever want, but none of it mattered until I met you." Nora studied his face, searching for signs of insincerity, but found none. "You've really changed, haven't you?" she asked quietly. "I'm trying," he said, his voice steady, "and I'll keep trying no matter how long it takes." Nora took a deep breath. "Liam, I can't forget what happened overnight, but maybe I can forgive you." His eyes lit up with relief. "That's more than I could ever ask for." They stood together in the garden, the tension between them easing. Both knew the road ahead would be long, but for the first time they shared a renewed sense of hope. 2 months had passed since that day in the garden. Liam and Nora had rebuilt trust, step by step. Their relationship, once tainted by lies, now grew from genuine respect and affection. Liam knew there was still one thing left to do: make their relationship real, without any strings attached. One evening, he invited Nora to the mansion's garden, where many of their defining moments had taken place. As she walked along the garden path, she noticed something different. Rows of lights hung from the trees, illuminating a beautiful arch decorated with white and red roses. Beneath the arch was a small table set for two, complete with a bottle of wine and crystal glasses. "Liam, what's all this?" Nora asked, her voice filled with curiosity. Liam smiled, guiding her to the center of the arch. "It's something I needed to do, something long overdue." Nora's heart raced as Liam took her hands and looked deeply into her eyes. "Before you, I was lost in a world of power and control. You showed me that life is about more than wealth. You taught me the importance of people and love." He paused for a moment before continuing, his voice trembling slightly. "I know I hurt you. I can't change the past, but I can promise you a better future. If you'll let me." Liam released her hands briefly to pull out a small velvet box. Slowly, he knelt on one knee. "Nora, I know I hurt you deeply, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But I don't want to lose the chance to build a life with you, a real life, built on trust, respect, and love. Will you marry me for real this time?" Nora covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She had been hurt deeply, but as she looked into Liam's eyes, she saw sincerity and vulnerability. Slowly, she whispered, "Yes, Liam, I'll marry you." A radiant smile broke across Liam's face as he stood and slipped the ring onto her finger. They embraced under the lights and flowers, both knowing they were no longer trapped by the past. 2 months later, the garden was transformed for their wedding ceremony. Fresh flowers and candles adorned the space, creating a magical atmosphere. Nora walked down the aisle in a stunning white dress, her eyes locked on Liam, who stood waiting at the altar with a look of pure emotion. As they exchanged vows, they promised to love, respect, and support one another. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, they shared a tender kiss as their guests erupted into applause. The reception was filled with music, laughter, and joy. Liam and Nora, hand in hand, celebrated not just their love, but also their journey of forgiveness and transformation. What do you think about Nora and Liam's story? Was Nora right to forgive Liam after all the pain he caused her? Or should she have walked away for good? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, tell us how you would have handled a situation like this. Could you forgive someone who betrayed your trust for a selfish bet? Let us know. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a rating from 0 to 10. We'd love to hear your feedback. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with more stories like this one. We upload heartwarming, emotional, and inspiring tales regularly to brighten your day. And if you want more, check out the videos on the end screen for more emotional journeys of love, redemption, and transformation. Thank you for watching.